Perfect. So good morning from the Arctic region, northern Norway. Before we get started, I will walk you through the reminders for the session. We ask you to kindly update your name, including your organization, to keep your microphone muted and your video on if possible. It's nice to see you. If you have any questions, please use the chat box. You can also use the raise hand feature. And if you have any IT questions, you can ask your question in the chat. The session will be recorded, and we ask participants to please not take pictures of the screen or of other participants without permission. You can turn on the AI-generated captions and translations. I think Margarita will also post some instructions in the chat box to help you with this. So with that, good morning, everyone. My name is Anina Kongelp. I'm an analyst with the Norwegian Red Cross. And I'm very pleased to present on the project Health Preparedness in the Arctic region, which is a Photovoice study from Finnmark, northern Norway. My co-researcher on this project was Kaja Kven. She was unfortunately not able to be here today. So in her place, my colleague Scott McClinsky-Sandvik has stepped in, and he will also help moderate this session. And maybe I should note that whilst going through the presentation, I can't see the chat box. So Scott, please shout out if anything, or if there are questions. I want to acknowledge, even though I am presenting, that this project really belongs to 4 volunteers of the Sør-Varanger Red Cross. And today I am humbly presenting their results on their behalf. So the 4 volunteers are Inger Lindseth, Gabriella Ottesen, Sandra Asmyr, Judith Fjellberg from Sør-Varanger Red Cross. And we also had really expert support from Anna Lindback of Finnmark Red Cross. As staff and researchers, our role in this project has been to guide and facilitate the process. And I'll also share some of that with you today. We've also been really lucky to receive expert guidance in the process from Dr. Wendy Fitzgibbon of University of Westminster. And the project was made possible thanks to the EPPR working group of the Arctic Council. We received funding from the work from the Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So this morning in this session, I will share a bit about the background and the need for this project, why and how we went about using Photovoice as a method, a little bit about the Arctic context, but then we'll spend most of the time exploring and hopefully also discussing and reflecting on the exhibition that this work led to. And at the end, I'll attempt to summarize some of the key findings and what we have learned in the process. And I'm also very happy to take your questions and comments. So why health preparedness in the Arctic region? Well, the Arctic is a region that is changing rapidly. The warming in the region is happening 3 to 4 times faster than the global average. This is leading to the sea ice melting, the tundra is thawing, and we're seeing increased tourism, increased industry, increased maritime economic activity and geopolitical interest. We're also experiencing more extreme weather events. And as a result of climate change as well, we're seeing the potential for new vectors both to emerge, but also new pathogens taking hold in the Arctic region. At the same time, the capacity remains very, very limited. The whole region is characterized by vast distances. It is sparsely populated with very limited infrastructure, and generally the whole region has scarce resources. So when it comes to preparedness and health preparedness, it really necessitates an approach that that takes the whole of society into consideration and use of all available resources. So that's a little bit about the justification and the why. And for this project, the key question we've been trying to answer is really, as the Red Cross, how can civil society support the health system in the event of accidents or unintended incidents or disasters, and thus contribute to strengthening the overall health preparedness in the region. The Photovoice project was really a project within a project. So the overall project had 3 objectives: to understand the complex and changing risk context for the Arctic region and how this impacts health preparedness. The second objective was really to shed light on the needs and perspective of Arctic communities and their lived experiences related to health preparedness and response. And the third objective was to provide insights to how civil society and authorities can collaborate to strengthen health preparedness in the region. So the Photovoice component is really responding to the second objective. Photovoice is a qualitative participatory action research method, and it combines photography and social action. It's commonly used in social sciences and health research, and it enables participants to visually document their lived experiences, emotions, perspectives, and through reflection and discussion, participants can communicate these experiences to others. There are three stated main goals of the methodology. The first one being to enable people to record and reflect their community's strengths and concerns, to promote critical dialogue and knowledge really about important issues in their society through large and small group discussions and photographs. And then thirdly, and this is perhaps the social action component of the methodology, is to reach policymakers. So it's really using photography as a tool to instigate debate and reflection, but to really share the knowledge and to reach the policymakers to achieve some kind of societal change. But before we get started and delve into the nitty-gritty of the project, I wanted to ask you as participants, what is health preparedness? How do you understand it? What do you think? There's no right and wrong here, but I ask you to please provide your reflections or comments in the chat box.
All right, Anina, I'm hearing some interesting things here from Ainur. Knowing your risks, first of all, of course. Hege Marinia, I'm saying it's to be ready for a wide range of events, such as pandemics, large accidents. Someone else is saying measures planned and developed to mitigate the health, mental and physical and social well-being, risks associated with foreseen hazards. I think also from my perspective, it relates to health risks that are common in the area in the country in which you live, the demographic in the area.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for contributing your thoughts. I can say from my side, I agree with everything that has been said. This is also how we started the workshops with the participants when we did the Photovoice study, to try and define, well, what is health preparedness? And in fact, this is one of the key questions that the study attempted to answer from the side of participants. And it can be quite difficult to define, and of course very context specific. So if we zoom in a bit on the context, I want to just show you where we are in the world. And we're up in the high north, northern Norway. Sør-Varanger, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but Sør-Varanger is this area here, with the city of Kirkenes, and part of the Arctic region in Norway. Sør-Varanger, or South Varanger in English, is a municipality of approximately 10,000 inhabitants. We have 86 active Red Cross volunteers, and about half of those are active in the local search and rescue corps. The municipality covers approximately 4,000 square kilometers, and by that it's one of Norway's largest municipalities. So again, there's a context with really large and vast distances. The municipality also borders Finland and Russia. So I'll share a little bit about the process, how we went about the Photovoice project. We started recruitment before Christmas, and maybe I should say that this was quite a quick project. We had some limitations in the timeline, as this was an Arctic Council project. We had about 6 months for the entire project, and only about 3 months for the Photovoice component. So we started recruitment through the local branch in December last year, and then in January we had recruited 5 participants from one local branch, and then end of January we met all of us in Kirkenes for the first workshop, where where the goal was to, first of all, establish trust among participants and us as facilitators, to introduce the method and the process, and really to define the purpose and the scope. So Photovoice is also a participant-led research method. So really it was about the participants themselves to contribute to the definition, to set the boundaries, and to discuss the topics for exploration. We spent a lot of time discussing ethics in the process, confidentiality, of course, sensitive topics and sensitive photographing. I can say as well that in this project, we follow the Norwegian Red Cross internal ethical procedures for data collection and analysis. We obtained informed consent from all participants. And because this was a photo or photography project, we also had to consider and deal with anonymity and creative credit consideration, which we discussed with the participants. Participants were given the option to remain anonymous and use a pseudonym for their photo credit, but actually all participants chose to use their own names. And we considered that the project was not of a sensitive nature and warranting further protection of their identity. And that is also given that they already represent their local Red Cross branch. But all identifiable persons photographed provided consent for the use of their images. And that is in line with our procedures in the Norwegian Red Cross. So we met on that first workshop and spent a lot of time discussing all of these things. We practiced taking photos during the session. And then participants went home and spent the next week taking photographs of things that for them represented health preparedness. And then after a week, we met online for the second workshop, where participants presented the photos they had taken so far and the meaning behind those photos. And then we had another couple of weeks where participants continued to take photographs. And then they did a pre-selection of photographs. So they were all asked to select maximum 5 photographs that they could bring to the last workshop, which again was in person. You can see in the picture here, we printed all of their selected photographs, and participants presented first their photos, the meaning behind them, and then we conducted, or the participant actually conducted, a thematic analysis. So trying to group the pictures, seeing what themes emerged, what this was really all about, and what they wanted to convey to the public and to decision makers. Following that process, the participants selected what pictures were to be part of the exhibition and started writing captions. So each photograph also had a caption, a little story explaining the meaning, the purpose behind the picture. This last workshop was also recorded, audio recorded. So we transcribed the recordings and collated all the data from the project, which were notes from all of the workshops, the pictures, of course, the captions, and the transcribes from the workshops. Then we started preparing the exhibition, and we held the first exhibition 18th of March. And we're currently, I should say, because this project hasn't finally concluded, we're currently doing the final analysis and report writing. So I think instead of telling you all about the results and the pictures, we want to give you the opportunity to explore it yourselves. And hopefully we can stimulate some reflection or critical dialogue, perhaps, about health preparedness in the Arctic region. So what I will do now is I will show you some of the photographs and ask you to describe what you see. And what does it tell you about Arctic health preparedness? And you're welcome to use the chat. So here's the first picture. I'll give you a few minutes to have a look and think. And
Yeah, it sounds like I and Carla agree. Looks cold and preparing for harsh working conditions.
yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, particularly during the night, as Hege points out. Lack of electricity, lack of connectivity to the internet. And yeah, I can personally share that in the far north, you have very spotty connection to mobile networks. So that's literally the reason why they're using a map here.
Great. Other comments? What does that mean for health preparedness?
GPS jamming. Yeah, same
Also
topic.
a reality of the high north.
Yeah. training and drills necessary for response teams. And also just the distances are vast in the north and very limited road connectivity. So with snow as well can impact where there is road connectivity. So a community preparing for lack of support. So self-preparedness, I suppose, and the need for that.
Great, excellent, excellent comments. There's see if I can get the next one. Yeah, so the one of the topics that emerged, or the theme, was they named it "In All Types of Weather," and here's the caption for this photo. Regardless of the weather, we are ready for action. It's often when the weather isn't at its best that we're called to action. And then it's a matter of finding shelter to check maps, plan further searches, and have a little break. So there were multiple photographs depicting the weather, which can be very, very harsh in the Arctic region. So this is the next one. Another photograph. I'm very keen to hear your reflections. What do you see?
Cold and vast, definitely. And I mean, you touched on it, Anita, but it's very dark in the north during the winter. So this looks like a day with the maximum amount of sun you can see for large periods of the year. Carla is commenting, preparing measures to mitigate impact of cold and isolation in communities. Yeah, and huge distances might mean that very early action is necessary, definitely.
Absolutely. I can also say that the return of the sun after the polar night period. So the polar night is when we don't have daylight. The sun doesn't rise above the horizon. So that first return of the sun is a very important event and really meaningful for people here in the north.
Feeling of loneliness.
Yeah. Isolation.
Isolation.
It's vast and sparsely populated. And that's actually one of the meanings behind this picture, is to convey, well, what does that mean for preparedness, that you may not have others to rely on nearby. So another theme was self-preparedness, and this is called self-preparedness in minus 30 degrees. And the caption from the photographer is, she writes, "I have named this photograph Long Roads in Every Direction. The picture is taken out in the open in minus 30 degrees. I'm often driving long distances. It's often very cold. I always make sure I have a shovel, food, and a sleeping bag in the car, something I've done for many years. It's not certain that there will be other cars that can help if your car stops. And so with the equipment, I know that I can take care of myself. In minus 30 degrees, toilet breaks along the road are very quick. It's common knowledge to leave the car running." So yeah, self-preparedness. It's an important concept in Norway, but even more important, I think, in the high north. and it's actually part of just daily life, what you do, how you prepare, and how you ensure that you can care for yourself, because you may not be able to get help, at least not straight away. We'll move to the next one. Here is another photograph. Perhaps a bit harder to interpret. But I should say there is no like right answer to this. It's all just the point is to trigger some reflection or thoughts.
I just keep thinking of the amount of work that is required to keep these roads free from snow. Infrastructure is a commentary, exactly. Not always helping the rapid response that is required.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There can be massive snowfall.
There are some capacities for relief teams. Seems to be a truck that has passed. Yeah, and there's a lot of use of snowmobiles up here. And in fact, you are actually 100% dependent on it as a relief team because of precisely this. That's what they're called in English, right? Snowmobiles?
Yes.
Yeah, for those who are not familiar, those are small belt-driven vehicles. They look like water jets, but for the snow.
Yeah. This is actually the theme that emerged was opportunities in Winterland. The participants were very clear that whilst the conditions, the weather, the temperatures provided some huge challenges, it also provided opportunities. So what we're seeing in this picture is actually an ice bridge. So that car down here is driving on the top of a frozen lake or a frozen river. And you can see from the caption here, I have named this photograph the ice bridge in Neiden. When the river freezes to ice, it becomes a road and gives us an important shortcut for emergencies. We get there faster. So one of the important themes that emerged was this mentality of seeing opportunities where others saw challenges. And this was linked very much to the identity of being a northerner, being self-reliant and resilient, and seeing opportunity. And then you have this very practical example of the winter and the cold actually cutting down the distances, in this instance by 10 kilometers, which is considerable when you're on a mission or called out for a search operation, for example. You get there faster, as I say. I can also say that there were multiple pictures of snowmobiles in the same theme of opportunities in Winterland. And this was about how in the winter they actually had more opportunities for covering larger grounds because of the snowmobile, where in the summer or when you don't have the ice and snow in the environment, you may have to walk everywhere and you can't cover the same grounds. But with the snowmobile, you can cover much larger grounds. So yeah, the winter also provides opportunities. We have another photograph.
Well, here certainly it seems to be some sort of team spirit. It's very contrast to the previous photos. Yeah, importance of teamwork. Someone is saying here. Team care. Yeah, and I can also keep thinking of the risks that are associated for people to travel into the dark, vast distance. Everybody contributes, keeping together. And she's also pointing out the differences in ages here. Intergenerational work. Yeah, another one commenting on that. Including those who are left behind.
Thank you. Really, really insightful comments. Many of the things that you said was also discussed in the workshops with the participants. This picture is part of the theme vulnerable volunteering that emerged. The photographer writes, "We have many names on the list, but they do not show up. A leader becomes tired without active members. We have a big responsibility and we are vulnerable when only the core members remain standing." So one of the things they discussed was how in smaller communities, you'll have or at least this was the experience from Sør-Varanger, you have like a strong core of volunteers. And then you also have someone a bit on the outskirts of that core who supports sometimes. And as I was saying, they need everyone. They need also those who contribute only a little. But a real challenge for the health preparedness as a volunteer organization was really that just not being enough people, not being enough hands, and the risk of overburdening those in the core who take on a lot of responsibilities. I'll move to the next one.
Cooperation amongst different agencies and organizations. I can't really recognize being Norwegian, I can't really recognize the organization logo to the left, but...
That is Norwegian Rescue Dogs.
Okay. Looks like they're using the sticks for something. I mean, I know, but I'm asking rhetorically.
Yeah.
Yeah, no
anyone see
so
what's going on in in the picture.
Marking danger zones, question mark. Searching in an avalanche. I think that's closer to the truth. Seems to be a more serious case, which will need more specialist people and response.
Very good. Yeah. So the volunteer search and rescue teams, they train a lot, and some of them are very specialized. And this is an example of training for an avalanche search. So searching for people taken by an avalanche. The theme of this photo, it forms part of the theme collaboration provides security. And here you see crews from the Red Cross and the Norwegian rescue dogs trained for searches in avalanche. When we go out on a search, it's important that we all have the same knowledge. We need to be familiar with each other's search strategies so that we can achieve the best possible results. For me, it's reassuring to know that I know the people I'll be searching with and that we're training together. And I think, as was mentioned in the chat as well, you may need specialist competencies, and not all organizations have the same capacity or competency. So here you have the example of the Norwegian rescue dogs teams searching together with the training together with the Red Cross search and rescue, and that is how an actual search will happen as well. It's very unlikely that only one organization will be called out. You will draw on resources from multiple organizations, and that provides strengthened security. And of course, the training together provides security in a sense of confidence, I suppose, in the teammates, and also considering that they are going out in harsh and demanding conditions. I think this might be, we'll go a bit quicker. The second last one. A bit of a different photograph, this one, from the others. How does this relate to health preparedness?
Caring for responders needs to be planned.
Sure.
A community around the first responders. Keep engaging with the communities and even in non-emergency times. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I see a lot of smiles. Appreciation. Bonding.
Yeah. So this is part of the same theme on collaboration. And the photographer writes, relationship building in peacetime is important for response in crisis. And last year, Sør-Varanger Red Cross, together with other voluntary emergency response organizations and emergency services, arranged what they call Blue Lights Day at the town square. It's nice to present ourselves together as a team. And it was really exactly that, to also make your presence known in the community, and to provide that, or to build that relationship in peacetime, and letting the community know. I'll move on a bit quicker to the last one.
Certainly a different environment.
Yeah.
present in every situation is the commentary. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and unrelated comment, but reminds me to also remind you that we have 10 minutes to go, Anina.
Thank you. Yeah, I would have loved to have showed you everything, but try and leave some time for questions at the end
In
as
health
well.
preparedness planning, do not forget other hazards that are not strictly related to weather.
Excellent point. So this picture is part of a theme called The Joy of Being Present. And the photographer writes, "It's rewarding for me to see young people in a concert atmosphere and to provide a safe environment for them. It means a lot to our youth that we are present as neutral adults. Our presence makes it a safe gathering place where young people can socialize. And without the Red Cross as emergency standby, it might not have been possible to arrange such meeting places, which would have left a void in the local community." So the participants had multiple examples of how their presence, not only in search and rescue operations or acute situations, meant that they had a knowledge of their community, an understanding of the needs and pre-existing vulnerabilities, which both enabled them to know who are most vulnerable and who will need extra support in an emergency, but also really supporting that building of trust within the community. They also spoke a lot about how these community meeting places and social activities, whether being for youth or for immigrants, summer activities for children, how that actually contributed to community cohesion and a sense of unity, which contributed to the overall resilience. And bringing that back to their kind of thinking of community resilience being kind of the core or the baseline for health preparedness. Being in the north, they needed everyone to kind of be strong and be able to care for themselves. So this was also part of health preparedness in a maybe a broader sense than how we classically think of response actions. I should also say as well that participating in these kind of activities as a Red Cross volunteer was brought up as one of the motivating factors for continuing. It provided a sense of community also among the volunteers, and was in that sense really important for motivation, retention, and having that core capacity. So we don't have much time left, so I'll just try and bring up some of the key takeaways from this project. And these really are the findings of the participants, the co-researchers in this project. They highlight that the volunteers are and the communities are resilient, solution-oriented, and accustomed to overcoming the challenges posed by the environment. Their interpretation of health preparedness is dynamic and comprehensive, and it includes individual and community resilience, mental health, and care activities. The environment demands robustness from local communities and also volunteerism and the preparedness organization. And at the same time, the exhibition demonstrates the vulnerability the volunteers may feel, whether that is due to the weather, the wind, climate change, or being a volunteer organization with very limited human resources. Volunteering was seen as something that created meaning and joy within the local community. And that sense of unity strengthens preparedness and safety for everyone. There are, of course, multiple limitations to this project. this all the photographs that you've seen and the findings that we've highlighted is representing the perspectives and experiences of 4 volunteers within one community in the Arctic region. That is, of course, a limitation for the transferability to the Arctic region as a whole, but as a qualitative research project, that is also the point, to bring up some of the key perspectives from some local communities. Another important limitation is the project timeline, which was very short. We started in December, and the first exhibition was held on the 18th of March. We've had multiple exhibitions and working on dissemination of these findings. We've had one international exhibition in Bodø. We had a local exhibition in Alta at the Red Cross annual meeting. Another local exhibition is planned, and these findings is also being incorporated and informing really the main health preparedness in the Arctic region project report, which is forthcoming later this year. Just to highlight a couple of lessons learned. This was a process that was a bit rushed. Ideally, we'd have more time, especially for the workshops, because these creative processes really take time and energy from the participants. At the same time, it was an important balance to make sure that we don't overburden volunteers who are already spending a lot of time on Red Cross activities. The trust among the participants and co-researchers was really imperative. We were also working with the local branch to establish that trust for some time. And maybe most importantly, as we're working on this larger health preparedness project in the Arctic region, there's local insight stemming from this project is really invaluable to inform larger report writing. So I think I will stop there, and happy to take questions if there are any for the last couple of minutes.
We have a comment here now. As a question, thinking ahead, this would be really nice to show on the Norwegian Red Cross General Assembly in October 2026, and maybe in general assemblies in Sweden and Finland.
That's a fantastic idea. Thank you very much.
Yeah, because I imagine there's a lot of overlap between the preparedness team in northern Sweden, Finland, and Norway. Beautiful project, really inspiring. Thank you for sharing, from Carla Uriarty. Hoping I pronounced that correctly, but probably not.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much also for contributing and for being so active. I will make sure to keep your comments and your reflections on the photos, because they're actually also really valuable and part of this process. Oh yes, and I should say as well, please provide your feedback. I think Margarita posted a link in the chat, but you can also use this QR code. And with that, we are on time. I apologize for speaking too much and not leaving enough time for questions, but feel free to contact me if you have any questions or comments, feedback on this project. I'm very happy to share.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.